tonight's tactical enhancement is Schürferhofer Hefeweisen. Tonight we're playing Victory at Sea. It's a 1600 point game, minus 10% for Emilio's Italians. Emilio is doing a defensive line with this fine fleet, including 2 battleships. It's a defensive line against my Americans, which I'll talk you through in a moment. 1600 points because Emilio had a bit over 1400 points that we worked out. Well, what does that mean we get with this mission selection?
Yeah, so we get 3 of the Navigatori class destroyers. They're 35 points each.
Yep.
We've got the Aquila class defense carrier, which is 210 points, with an upgrade to give me some extra flights. And obviously the big points are spent here at 550 points each, and they're the Littorio class battleships, which have they're big long range guns.
Yes.
So we're going to try stand and fire. The problem is, I can see already, the way that Chris is deployed, I've got 2 big islands in the way. They're going to get in the way of me firing at him in a defensive line.
Yes, and I set up the terrain earlier today just for something completely different before I worked out how many points and what mission or what fleet. This could be a real double-edged sword. We'll see how we go. Up against the Italians, we have 3 of the Clemson class destroyers, a couple of Northampton class cruisers, an Essex class carrier with 22 flights, 12 of the F6, F3 Hellcats, and 10 of the Helldivers. And I've got a couple of the extra planes airborne, a couple of bombers airborne, just glad to make up some spare points to make it balance. And then we have the Iowa class battleship. Now, I was weighing up whether to go an Iowa class or whether to take 2 of the older style battleships, which are just absolute bruisers in a close quarter battle. Those 10 shots each are just absolutely horrendous. But I thought we'll mix it up, we'll do something different, partly because it's a cool ship and I hardly ever use it. I think statistically it's less effective against Emilio's fleet, but there is the rule of cool. And the other thing is, I've got to get off the other side of the table, which is a lot easier to do if your ships are moving 6 inches a turn instead of 4 inches. So it's a bit of an experiment, as it so often is. I'm going to roll for first turn, see who gets the first go. Oh bugger, it's them. We'll check in at the end of turn 1. End of turn 1. Now, we each got 1 plane out of our carriers, even under orders. I had to move first. I've got 2 coming up here to keep them busy on the flank and make them wonder about what to do with their fleet. These guys are in the middle, moving slowly into the wind. The wind is coming from the east today. So they've got their options open. They're maneuverable enough, they can go in a number of different directions. I've got my main hitting force going up the flank here. Now here I've got Hellcats in the lead, and the ones behind them not really Corsairs. That's just the models I've got. Well, those are actually Helldivers today. In response, Emilio's brought out 3 fighters. And his ships, he's got most of them moving very slowly, wondering which direction I'm going to go. And he's got 1 battleship doing a major turn, ready to face at least some of what's coming up the guts. We'll now move into turn 2. Let's roll for initiative. D10 this time. We rolled the wrong dice last time. 10, excellent.
5.
You move one of your ships first, thank you.
Okay.
Turn 2. I got the initiative, but with no shooting again this turn, so I couldn't really use it. We continue to do our flank run over here. This lot are moving up at a faster rate of knots. These guys are going full pelt on the flank here. I was putting models in the smoke to conceal the cruisers, but then I thought, you know what, I didn't even know if that's really technically correct. It seems a kind of stupid thing to do, to fly, like, sail along in the middle of a smoke plume. So whether it exists in the rules or not, we're counting as a house rule that you can't deliberately spend your
Smoke
time.
out your friendly ships.
Yeah. I mean, it'll happen by accident, I suppose, from time to time, but it's not a thing to be done on purpose in general.
Work up the safety for the crew.
Well, I once saw a photograph of a 1930s passenger aeroplane, and they had sort of cane wicker chairs, not even fastened to the floor of the DC-3s. So workout safeties have got a little way to go yet. Now, Emilio's hedging his bets. He's got one ship that's turned 90 degrees, and this one did a U-turn, and the maneuverability of that freaked me out so much that I actually had to stop and check the measurements with Emilio. But he'd already turned 45 last time, and he's done all 3 potential turns just now. He coughed up 1 extra plane, I coughed up 2, so I've launched a fighter and a bomber, and I've moved up the fighter, so I've got a cluster of 3 fighters, potentially against Emilio's 3, but with supporting attacks from the dive bombers they're escorting. So we were thinking about this. Because Emilio's taken a small number of big ships, and I've taken a lot more light ships that will frankly disintegrate under fire. What that's done though is give me essentially free initiative every turn. I will always be able to move my fighters and dictate who gangs up on who. Interesting quirk of the rules. I've been caught out by this in the past where I've taken too few ships, and Andrew actually he gave me a very hard day that time. Because he was always ganging up on me with his fighters, and he brought more of them. So yeah, having the big hitters, it gives you a definite advantage in one phase of the game, but it comes at a cost. And we'll see just how that cost-benefit analysis pans out. Probably starting from the next turn, because at the moment we don't have line of sight to each other because of the islands, and we're about to move into line of sight. We might roll D10.
Oh, D10, okay. We just rolled a 10. It's pretty good.
It is pretty good. Alright, I've got the initiative again. Might be able to get some good results out of this. Turn 3. Now I had the initiative, which was useful. I'm still fully committed to this run, and Emilio's put a battleship in the way. I got the first shot off, and we really did 4 points of damage. I rolled
7 all up.
Well, the initial shot was 4 damage, which was really woeful, but I got 2 criticals out of that. Those heavy guns really count. And accrued a few extra damage points, but more importantly, I mucked up his AA. And hey, we had -1 to your light guns, which we didn't take into account when the light guns did an extra couple of damage points to
-1 to light guns.
Chester. Yeah, we rolled 2 many dice for that, doesn't matter. I might take that into account next time. Now, I didn't quite get the smoke in the right place to protect the Chester, and because the objective of this game is to stop me getting 4 or more ships off the table, Emilio decided to dump his entire point-blank broadside into the cruiser, crippled it, as you'd expect from a volley of that nature. Meanwhile, we have changed our maneuver here to go up the guts. We'll see if that works. It might not work. Maybe a really stupid idea, but I don't really want all of that ganging up on all of these. Now Emilio's not getting as many planes up as I am. It's not a huge advantage, but it is an advantage. And I'm, because fighters move after all ships, we've got to remember that. So I've got a greater concentration of power, and I've got 2 extra planes. I think Emilio got 2 extra planes this turn as well. And yeah, it's a bit challenging. This could go either way over here, but I really need to get some firepower in amongst those destroyers, and Emilio really wants to screen it. Well, let's roll for initiative. Turn 4, I think we're up to.
3.
10-sided dice, mate.
Oh, no,
I guess me too.
Yeah.
Alright, a
1.
That's what I wanted. Lovely. I really need initiative this turn, especially for this duel that's about to open up over here. Turn 4. I got the initiative again, as you would have seen. Emilio decided to jump this lot with 3 fighters to stop for 4 fighters to stop them from interfering with this attack run over here. Now, I killed 3 of them, he killed 1.
Expected.
Probably about right, really. I've still got some bombers in there, we'll worry about that in a minute. Over here, though, we almost fucked up the rules and nearly blew up the destroyer. I sent 1 fighter in against both of his fighters, and one of his fighters were higher than mine, so we just took mine off. I think that's how it works. I'm still a bit confused about fighters. He then did a level bombing run, and
1 missed and 1 got in.
Yeah, 1 missed, 1 got in. The one that got in knocked 2 points of damage off. That destroyer is crippled. Now over here, we're still screening this cruiser until we get in, because that thing is so damn lethal. And we've got to work out what to do about this mess, although I do have 3 bomber units here to do something. He dumped an entire battleship, including his light secondaries, onto this aircraft carrier and knocked off at least a third of its damage points, maybe 2/5 of its damage points. Because I didn't manage to get my smoke right by the time he'd moved his battleship.
And I did a total of 5 criticals.
5 criticals. He was just yahtseeing the hell out of this thing. It's on fire.
And it can't repair itself.
Yeah, that's right. He got a 10, that's on the nasty chart. Took an extra 2d6 worth of dice, although I've only rolled 4 for that. That was okay. But the problem is it's on fire. It's just going to accumulate more and more damage over the rest of the game. I don't know if I'll get it off the table before it goes below the waterline. Now, over here is where it got interesting. Emilio decided to dump all of his attack dice into my battleship. And he put some light guns into the Chester, but he only took 1 extra point off. Chester was crippled. But before that happened, I blasted the hell out of it at point blank range and actually rolled above. Last turn I rolled below average, this turn I rolled above average, and I took a lot of chunks out of that battleship. Then the destroyer took another 12 or so points out with the torpedo run, and actually rolled pretty well for the torpedoes. I can't complain about the dice this round, that's for sure. Now that battleship is just going to do a hard left turn for the rest of the game.
Which is just fine.
It's
what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that was probably what he needed to do anyway. But
a hard right turn would have sent me off the battlefield.
True. That said, I think you may actually be at -1 to your movement as well, so that'll be fun. It's anyone's game. We will now move into turn 5. Ooh,
you rolled, what's that, 4?
That's a 4.
Got to beat a 4. Here we go. 5! I did it.
Well, it's not quite a Yahtzee, but it does give Emilio the first crack. We're interrupting the usual turns proceedings. I just dumped a point-blank broadside from Iowa onto the capital ship. Did 12 raw points of damage. This was going to be the criticals. To confirm, and 10. I got 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10, which is way under average.
I thought I had the fucker. God damn it. Okay, and turn 5. We've got an interesting situation. I sent fighters in over here to start dealing with that clusterfuck of bombers. You had a tie and a loss. That was woeful, frankly. Should have cleaned up a couple. This one here was a tie, so even though I've had the advantage in all these fights, they've not worked out very well. On the other side, we moved up here as usual, making a corner run, sending 2 bombers against each destroyer, because I always like to send in 2 because the odds are 1 will miss, and we just plastered 2 destroyers, frankly. 2 35-point destroyers with nearly twice as many hit points as my 60-point destroyers. I don't understand that, but somewhere there's a subtlety in this game I haven't paid attention to. Over here, I had to maneuver my carrier in order to get a flight off. And we measured out just enough space to move forward and turn before hitting the island, because we measured from the bridge. We got 1 plane out instead of 2.
But aren't you stuck now as well? Because you had turret damage and all that sort of stuff?
The problem is, I couldn't quite get the smoke cover again, so that bastard got just a sliver of a shot between the island and the smoke. Which, yeah...
You're crippled now, aren't you?
Technically, I didn't need to allow that to happen, but I couldn't fit the model very well, and I figured we'll play gentleman's rules. I didn't want to just do some arsey bullshit. So
and you also wanted planes to take off, so you needed the angle.
So I needed the angle. That was the main thing.
That was the main thing.
Planes. The drama is that battleship did a rudder damage, so I can't turn unless I move 3 inches.
So you're stuck.
I'm pretty much rooted at this point. Carriers is going to putter along very, very slowly and try to pump out another couple of planes before he annihilates it. Over here, they cleaned up the cruiser. Didn't do very much damage to anything else. I think the light guns crippled this destroyer, which is annoying because he then pumped out 3 torpedoes instead of 6 and just completely missed. The Iowa just took chunks after chunks off of it. That's now crippled that ship, and it's got so much damage stacked on it. It's not in a good way. The Iowa has a bit, but it's not doing too badly. It's worth noting this carrier here is rooted anyway.
And he's untouched.
It's taking so much damage. Yeah, and this fella's untouched, but we'll see what that means for the game.
Should we roll initiative? Because this is important to see what happens here.
Yeah, absolutely, it's important. Let's roll it over here where the action is.
Got a beat of 6.
Yeah. Oh, you bugger.
I got 9.
All right. We'll see what happens, and we'll check in at the end of turn, what are we up to, 5? 6?
Yes.
A close game's a good game. They've added the destroyer to the ships to bug it up. Now, this battleship's moving slowly in a vaguely leftward direction. And they didn't have many shots. Didn't do much, to be honest. I moved up, and Emilio moved his battleship up. We traded point-blank broadsides and took big chunks off of each other. Over here, my carrier moved forward slowly and got some airplanes up. I don't think I'm going to be able to release any more planes for the rest of the battle. That's very annoying. And that destroyer moved forward slowly. Yeah, so we got those 2 planes out. Over here, my bombers got your destroyers last turn. This turn, we hooned past each other at full clip, did nothing to each other with our destroyers, although I did take 3 points off with the cruiser at close range.
Did I get a chance to drop torpedoes at you or not?
Oh, is he not shot yet? All right, torpedoes won't hit. No, you did shoot. You had 2 dice to shoot with.
No, I haven't used my torpedoes yet.
No, but that's because you didn't have a viable shot. It was impossible to hit.
Oh, right.
It was like 7 or 8 to hit.
Okay.
The bomber had to go at my destroyer and missed. That Italian destroyer is now crippled, it might still cough a couple of torpedoes up, so it's dangerous still, and I don't like where it is. We popped a grand total of 1 dice of damage off that carrier. He wasn't in position to do any damage to these. It's going to be fighting for its life over there now, that battleship. So I'm a bit stuffed with that carrier not being able to move. In the dogfights, that was a tie. Over here, my fighter killed a fighter, but the 2 bombers there took out one of my fighters. Because Italian bombers, they're average on the bombing run, but Jesus, they're bastards in a fight. They're actually better in a dogfight than some dedicated fighters in this game. So that's it. It's close. On to initiative for turn 5. 6. Turn 6, sorry.
Oh, I gotta beat the 3. Come on.
Hey! Well, that's going to help because it's a slugfest over there. I tell you what, there's a big difference between 6 to critical and 5 to critical. Anyway, I think I did something like 4 criticals on you, and although admittedly Emilio has me rolling up a storm as usual. I call him the Yahtzee King for a fucking reason.
But you're probably in the end you outgunned me here.
The extra critical is offsetting your pension for doing Yahtzee. On that note, we'll check in at the end of turn 6. Right, so it's the end of turn 6. We've turned, rather than running for the board, because the fact is we're not going to get 4 ships off, we're now going to try and finish off that destroyer that's crippled and take out the carrier. Bit of luck required. What was the name of it? Evergreen, is that the one that got stuck in the canal?
That was the
Yeah, thanks to some rudder trouble, my carefully manoeuvring aircraft carrier is now stuck. It's not going anywhere. Can't even launch planes, it's not even moving. That's a problem. Over here, the slow moving turn happened. And we moved up here. We both fucked up a few things. There really is a premium in this game for very, very carefully moving. So we play some games like your Team Yankee, for example, where you hoon your tank around and you do pretty much anything within the maneuver range of the tank and you're fine. But the inches of movement, angle of turn are so specific in this game. And sometimes we'll just move a ship as though we normally would and think it doesn't matter. Then suddenly it does matter, because if you've got a shot that is either in or out based on like 5 degrees of arc. So on that basis, this battleship took out one of my destroyers. That ship was crippled anyway, but yeah, that might have been okay. It might not have. In the end, we just rolled, for each hit, we rolled a 4+ to see if it worked.
I didn't want Chris to get his objective, which was 4 ships would get through to the other side of the table. So that major objective won't be met now.
No, it won't now.
It comes down to points, most points, and Chris has got the advantage.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get a minor victory at this point, so I won't be able to get off the board.
It's only because this battleship's lost its 2 front turrets.
In the shooting, I had initiative, and I got some rounds off, and the critical, I got pretty much average dice, but the criticals, they all stacked on the one area.
Weapons -4, light guns -4. My crew's only -1.
Yeah, so it's all been stacking on weapons and blowing his turrets off, basically.
Yeah.
So that's worked out all right.
But we're going to finish this game in one more turn, because I need to get going.
All right, then I'll we'll work out the shit fight after that. Because we like to argue about the results, and yeah, so it's turned into a very interesting game. But we'll roll for initiative now, and then we'll work out.
Beat 2.
Oh, brilliant! Well, I had a good starting run to the game. All right, we'll check. Here's the wash up. This turn we moved in to get broadsides against the carrier and to get some torpedo shots at point blank with the destroyer. That crippled ship moved around. We had a bit of a dogfight. This thing continued to go nowhere whilst on fire. Actually, we should roll for our escalate, see if we control them. I can't do damage control on that. I'm just going to take an extra D6 points of damage.
No.
Oh, some extra damage was accrued. This thing did very little. This ship here, it put, I think, 3 rounds onto this battleship and didn't do enough to knock it off. Although it's just piled up with critical damage at the moment.
It should have died a turn ago.
It's gonna blow. This then pumped rounds into this ship. Desperately looking for criticals, and we rolled up a 10, then we rolled up a 6, and the damn thing just blew itself apart right there and then. So, while there's still some game to go, if it were to continue on, this ship's basically gone. Save a miracle of some sort. My battleship would be okay, unless it totally balls something up horrifically. This carrier would go, and we'd be here for the next 12 hours or so trying to deal with this carrier while we pump round after round from the cruiser into it and gradually work down its
Well, the only highlight for me is that I had 1 fighter left, you had 2 fighters left, but I could still pump out planes.
That's right. Now, this is an interesting thing, right? The American fighters are superior to the Italian fighters.
But I still had 3 fighters left.
But the Italian Air Force has done their country good service today. They have ripped the fucking skies open. Emilio got all of his allocated bombers up, and 3 of them came back, and they're hovering around waiting for a chance to land.
Yeah. So if I took out Chris's fighters, then they could actually land, and then my bombers could take off and make some work of what's here.
The only question is whether I could shoot up the carrier enough to prevent that happening, which
it's possible.
It's possible, but not guaranteed. So by that point, I suppose my battleship would be putting rounds on it anyway.
It's over here though.
Yeah.
It'll be a long time. And I'm going that way.
And it's moving pretty damn slowly too. So yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Look, I think at the end of the day, I have 4 ships left, but one of them can't move, so that's not getting off the table. God, that's an own goal right there. Interestingly, my manoeuvring didn't even get me out of trouble from getting shot at either, which is another one of those extremely marginal, like 5mm wide.
And what was left on your aircraft carrier? Like, it was crippled?
I did kind of lose count, but we probably launched in over about 6 turns, and we probably put out about 9 planes in that space of time. Plus had 4 in the air.
But you still would have won this game because the Iowa could have taken out that other battleship, or
That's
it could have
right.
actually self-destructed, and there's
Yep.
then no way I'll catch up on points.
That's right. Yeah, look, it's an interesting game. It's a minor victory.
If he wasn't so crippled, he could have gone around the island, and he could have actually finished off that aircraft carrier.
Yeah, absolutely. But he is that crippled.
And if he didn't blow up, he could have actually joined the fight over there.
Yeah, no, you know, I like to call Emilio the Artsy King, but I did okay on the criticals because of the 5s and 6s. And I was then further helped by the fact that we kept landing criticals in the same D10 area, basically the weapons. I think you hit like weapons 4 or 5. You're having magazine explosions, blowing turrets off.
But weren't you escalating anyway? Like...
Oh, that one, yeah, that thing's cooked. It's going to burn down to the waterline.
So the only thing stopping me was the Iowa.
Yep.
But there is a chance I could have actually turned this around over here. If you didn't sink the aircraft carrier, I could have actually put my bombers in, take my bombers out, and I could have actually...
You can land 1 or 2 flights per turn, depending on if you get your 5+. So let's assume it's going to take 3 turns to land all your flights. Then you've got to pump them out. And you
would have gone off the edge.
Well, originally, yeah, but basically what it means is I would have had 3 shots of 9 guns per shot, so that's 27 shots.
So it's worth sticking around. You would have taken me out probably in 2 turns.
Yeah, and the destroyer would have come around and had another go, because still has some torpedoes left. I did actually fire torpedoes at this thing, but they whiffed. They didn't get their 5+.
I think I still had 2 hull.
2 hull on that thing. Yeah, it's crippled.
So you could have. Yeah, it would have been. Oh, he could have. He didn't drop his torpedoes. So in turn 2, he could have got back into the fight if he chose to stay.
No, the drummer, he's got his aim moving at 3.5 inches.
Oh, okay.
And any spare shots I got, I was chucking them at him. So, what can I say? One of the more interesting games we played. Nice to get a win. Emilio beat me the last 2 times, he just reminded me. Although both of those were narrow victories too, because it is bloody hard work trying to get 4 ships off the table. I think the only way to do it is to have a fleet that consists entirely of movement 7 ships, pump lots of smoke and run for the hills.
Chris did really well because the Italians are very good with long range fire, and his islands saved him for 2 turns.
And then
so 2 turns, 2 turns I could have done damage to his fleet, but I couldn't because the islands protected his fleet. The biggest mistake Chris made is he should never have sent the aircraft carrier down.
Fuck up. I should have gone up this side.
Because he knows he needs to. The wind was blowing north, and he was going down a channel, but he couldn't let planes out if he was going down a channel.
Right. I lost a turn of launching planes because I was going the wrong direction. Then when I turned the right direction, I really needed to not have that rudder hit in order to be able to maneuver out of the pickle I put myself in. Then I could have gone around that way and been fine.
Yeah.
You
had the choice of going around. You chose to go through. If you went around, it would have been much better for you.
Yeah, and I could have still screened the carrier properly with the destroyer. Look, going up the guts there was an experiment, and it turned out to be a fucking stupid one. Frankly, I won't do it again. Right. Well, I was about to say, what have we learned? But we've covered rather a bit, haven't we?
I think we have, yeah. The Iowa, I couldn't beat it. If early in the game, if I used both my battleships against the Iowa, I may have come out with a victory against the Iowa, but then Chris would have had free reign of the table to get 4 ships off. So it's just too many resources to take out 1 ship when the objective was stop 4 ships coming off the side and a defensive position. So I sacrificed that battleship.
Yeah, look, if you had concentrated fire in the Iowa, I think you would have got it. Because there would have been 1,100 points against 850, and double the number of shots. And they don't critical as much per shot, but that's a lot of shot going in.
Do you think I should have ganged up on it?
It's tough because your shooting did cripple the aircraft carrier and took out the destroyer that was minding it. So in terms of stopping me getting off the table, splitting your shots was effective. But, you know, I don't know if there's a way that you could have concentrated force. I mean, 'cause my whole gambit really was to go in so many different directions that it was confusing as to where to stick your assets to stop them.
Was there any? Did you have any serious criticals? On January?
You got up to critical 3 in 3 areas.
So maybe if I'd hit you with both ships for one turn hard, I might have done some escalations.
Yeah, look, I have no doubt that you could have finished it off if you'd ganged up on it. But it would have been at the expense possibly of
I wouldn't have any other firepower.
4 other ships getting off the table, maybe 5. And you know, you did dedicate firepower to killing a destroyer that was running around dropping torpedoes at this. You did pump a lot of your shots into a cruiser. If you'd been putting all those rounds into this bad boy, potentially that's 6 ships that would have had to go off the table.
You would have won.
Yeah.
It's you can see why it's a tough call.
Yeah, and I mean, trying to get a major victory in this is, I don't even know how to do it yet. Maybe the Japanese could do it if they, the Japanese are tricky to play.
You did roll, you did, earlier in the game, you rolled 10 critical dice, but only 2 of them actually became critical.
Yeah.
That could have been a turning point for you.
Yeah, no, I wasn't doing a great job of transferring critical potentials into actuals. I had none that really went above average. But I tell you, that was more than offset by the fact that I just rolled up everything I needed once the criticals actually turned up.
Yeah.
So, interesting game. People have opinions about this game around the points and around how this works and that works. And I still don't understand why my destroyers cost so much. But I have to say, this game is a lot of fun. Well, on that note...
like and subscribe.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for watching. Help the algorithm along. Get it pumped out to other people. Leave a comment. I always like to know what I've done horribly wrong. And time to call it a night.